Hello everyone and welcome to Manga and Comics Chronicles. This is one of the most ambitious analyses I've done, where I will analyze Eren Yeager's journey throughout the entire story of Shingeki no Kyojin, because Eren's path is filled with hope, love, and bravery, but also with injustice, suffering, and pain. Today, we delve into one of the most interesting characters of recent years, and one of the most complex character developments I know, analyzing key scenes, symbolism, and motivations. Let's get started with the analysis of Eren, the hero condemned to hell. Eren's story begins under the tree where he would be buried, having a dream with echoes of the future, like a premonition, as if he was already connected to memories of what was to come. A glimpse of a tragic fate that strikes him as a child, making him cry. From a very young age, Eren feels trapped within the walls. He wants to escape and understand what's beyond, even though he knows it could mean death. Part of this curiosity is sparked by his friend Armin's fascination. In fact, they swear to explore that unknown world together one day. He meets Mikasa after the death of her parents, when she was kidnapped by criminals. Eren kills them and saves her, later giving her his scarf. From the beginning, one of the key bonds of the series will be established between them. Even towards its conclusion, the scarf will always represent Mikasa's romantic love for Eren. Let's return to him, because the first Eren we meet is the purest, the most innocent. He is a rebel in a world trapped within unbreachable walls, knowing that these are a temporary prison rather than protection. But soon, that innocence will be ripped away. The attack on Wall Maria begins with the eyes of an innocent Eren chasing the flight of some birds, interrupted by the imminent attack of the colossal titan, a metaphor for the dream of freedom he would have throughout his life, which would be interrupted by the role fate had reserved for him. The price of freedom will be slavery. Eren loses his mother at the young age of 10 and feels powerless to save her because he was too weak. He then swears vengeance, vowing to exterminate every titan and to become strong enough to do so. He is consumed by rage and fury, with unwavering determination. Furthermore, his bond with Armin and Mikasa strengthens after they survive together, and the three decide to enlist in the Survey Corps, where Eren meets the people who will become his friends, like Connie, Jean, Sasha, Bertolt, and Reiner. A scene that shows how far Eren is willing to go to move forward, no matter the cost, is when he passes the balance test despite his belt being broken. His determination will always lead him to not give up in the face of failure or shame. And this is a philosophy he will apply both now and when things get incredibly dark at the end of the story. Despite completing his training, Eren is still just a 15-year-old boy, but he doesn't hesitate for a second when he has to face the colossal titan in its second appearance at Trost and Wall Rose. His anger and rage against the titans make him reckless, but that recklessness combined with his extraordinary skills makes him a fierce fighter despite his youth. However, fighting titans is a reality check because it's going to be a difficult and bloody task. In fact, the series gives us another slap in the face here. The cruelty of the world would have taken Eren away at this point if he hadn't had the ability to turn into the attack titan. Eren is devoured, saving Armin. And this is a lesson we must not forget, because the world of Shingeki no Kyojin will be constantly cruel to us. And we arrive at the first major revelation of the story, because Eren reappears as a titan when Mikasa... He is remembering the most important lesson his friend taught him since they were children. Never stop fighting. It is Eren who saves her then, and with the powers of the attack titan. Although he can barely control them and remember what happened during the battle at Trost, he becomes the hero, defeating the titans in the city and saving his friends. When Eren turns into a titan, he faces a harsh reality. He is now part of what he swore to destroy and what he swore to take revenge on. Humans then perceive him as a dangerous and unpredictable monster. At this point, there are three moments that echo the end of the story. The first is Mikasa wanting to defend Eren at all costs, even though the rest of the world considers him dangerous. Then Eren, also becoming that monster in the eyes of everyone, to help his friends. And finally, Armin speaking out to show that Eren is not the monster they think he is. Although, in the end, That conversation will happen with Eren himself, and it will be to show him that he is not a monster. But all of this are curious coincidences. Mikasa's protection, Eren turning into a monster, and Armin trying to bring out Eren's humanity from all this chaos. Another coincidence occurs when Eren has a conversation with Commander Pixis about peace. Pixis talks about how, if an enemy powerful enough threatens humanity, they would end up uniting and peace would arrive. Notice that this happens more than once. Humanity inside the walls uniting against the Titans, Marley and the other nations of the world uniting against the demons of parody, or even at the end, the entire world united against Eren and his rumbling. But a young Eren considers this story still too innocent, and he's not wrong. He believes it's not enough because humans continue to fight among themselves despite that external enemy, just as it happens even now inside the walls, where there are more than one faction. This is another curious premonition coming from someone who would end up becoming the threat that would unite the world. But he was right, because after his actions, the wheel of violence would continue. Heroes were needed who had survived it to become ambassadors of a lasting peace that still required work. "I have to be a symbol of hope for everyone," says Eren before facing the battle to reclaim Trost. No matter how cruel and terrifying the world is, we must keep fighting against everything that takes our freedom. This summarizes Eren's mentality as he repairs the Wall of Trost, and that leads him to undergo a trial because of his powers. After the trial, he joins the Survey Corps with Levi, Owen, and Hang, and even though many distrust him, they know how important he is and how powerful an asset he can be in the hands of humanity. But notice, we are already talking about Eren as a weapon, a soldier, a symbol when he is only 15 years old. He is nothing more than a child soldier, traumatized by war, filled with hatred and a thirst for vengeance. After the battle against the female Titan goes awry, Eren learns two lessons. The first is the importance of his squad and the mutual trust that is gained through the course of the expeditions. It's all about trusting your squad and moving forward. When Eren becomes the founding Titan, he too will move forward, trusting that his squad will do whatever it takes to stop him, thus becoming the hero's humanity needs to find peace. It's a somewhat twisted way to see it, but it makes sense. His squad falls before the female Titan, and Eren ends up standing firm. Even though his rage, fury, and momentum cause him to falter, and Ani ultimately wins. But as I said, here he learns the second lesson, which is that Eren has always had a weakness. He struggles to fight against his friends, even when Ani reveals herself as the female Titan. Eren can't transform into his Titan form. He refuses to accept the reality, and his feelings are what? They stop him. But here comes that feeling of fighting for something greater. I can't pretend not to stain my hands with blood because this is a cruel world. I will destroy the whole world if I have to. Eren shouts, and Armin also says something very harsh about him, that he must set aside his humanity to defeat these monsters. All the time, there are phrases with double meanings about the fate of the world that, seeing how the story unfolds, resonate much more strongly. Eren is able to defeat Ani due to the rage and anger he feels towards the world. However, he is not able to kill her in the final moment because he knows her, and because a part of him still cares for her as a friend. Still, the fury with which Eren fights and his hatred for his enemies, despite his youth, is something that frightens others. Even at this point, Eren is presented as a hero for humanity, but a hero filled with hatred, rage, past traumas, and with a huge responsibility on his shoulders. This makes him constantly pressured throughout his life. Both the pressure he places on himself to be stronger and destroy the Titans, and the pressure the world places on him to save humanity, causing many to die for this cause. Everything is black or white. It all depends on him constantly, closing the walls, fighting the Titans, or using powers he doesn't even control, like the hardening ability. Too much responsibility for a child. Back in the walls of Trost, we have one of the best revelations of the entire series in an anticlimactic moment when no one seems to be paying attention. Reiner simply reveals to Eren that he and Bertolt are the Armored Titan and the Colossal Titan. Perhaps an error from Reiner for blurring the lines between friends and enemies, but a revelation that could not help but follow with a battle in which EREN loses despite confronting Reiner, with the consequence that he is kidnapped. Hang and Armin then also have another conversation that sums up the anime. They say that in their group of friends, there always seems to be the same dynamic. EREN gets into trouble, and it's always Mikasa and Armin who have to go after him to solve it and prevent more damage. Moreover, EREN always does it, even risking his own existence and pushing himself to the end with tenacity. This is exactly what the final arc of the series will be. Mikasa and Armin saving EREN in different ways. Mikasa putting an end to the barbarism and Armin rescuing the human side just before the conclusion. In the pursuit, we also see how EREN relives the most traumatic moment of his life again. A protective figure, like Hang dying under the jaws of the same Titan. But despite EREN's fear that nothing has changed, it has, and he decides to face the Titan, even though he's not able to transform. Upon coming into contact with what we will later discover to be Dina Fritz's Titan, EREN is able to control the power of the founding Titan he has accessed through royal blood and uses it to have the Titans protect them. "Thank you for putting the scarf on my neck," Mikasa says to EREN, and EREN responds that he will put it on as many times as necessary. Mikasa is thanking him for allowing her to love, and EREN is telling her he will always be there for her. These are two different ways of seeing their bond because Mikasa sees it as something more romantic, while EREN in that moment can perceive her as a friend. However, it remains a very beautiful scene. It also echoes a scene from the future in which EREN reproaches Mikasa for everything she feels, saying it's because the Ackermans will always protect some figure they consider important. This was a deception by EREN to push his friends away and make them perceive him as someone evil. But the truth is that the reaction is Mikasa taking off the scarf for a while, rejecting what she feels for EREN, until later, she accepts it again and retrieves the scarf to try to save him. But as I said, the scarf speaks volumes about the bond between them after this victory. The internal conflict against the Survey Corps erupts, and EREN is kidnapped by Rod Rice. Here, he discovers how his father ate Historia's family, as well as many details about the royal family and their power over the founding Titan. Rod Rice then turns into a horrible Titan, and we see that EREN has a major emotional breakdown. He stops considering himself special, stops trusting himself, and crumbles. His friends rescue him, making him realize that they will always be with him, no matter what, and they help him regain confidence in himself. In the end, it's also Levi's words about the importance of his decisions that push him to act. They end up defeating Rod Rice, and even with the goal of reaching the sea and freedom, the battle in Shiganshina district takes place to free the last wall of humanity. The moment they must decide whether Armin lives or dies is one of the hardest for EREN. As he has said, his friends are the most important thing he has, and although he argues that Armin has contributed enough to deserve to live in that negotiation with Levi, it's his heart that is speaking. He doesn't want to lose Armin for anything in the world. Armin survives, and there's a very beautiful detail when they finally manage to access Grisha's basement. Mikasa helps EREN turn the first page of the book that contains the answers they're looking for. They turn it together in a beautiful metaphor of union for what's to come. It's as if Mikasa is telling him that no matter what truth he must face when he opens the book, she will be with him. Mikasa's protection of EREN is always present throughout the series, and it is from this point forward that EREN begins to grow more distant as he is overwhelmed by scattered memories of his father, the death of his sister under the jaws of the dogs, the situation of the Eldian people in Marley, or the suffering beyond the sea. As he begins to scratch the surface of this new reality that is confronting him, he kisses Historia's hand and unlocks even more memories, which overwhelm him, making his fall even more pronounced. This weight, the connection between the founding Titan that he carries in Historia's royal blood, unlocks hundreds or thousands of memories that begin to distance him from reality and show him how an absolutely terrible future awaits both him and the world. In fact, when they find the sea, a moment that should be happy for EREN, a catharsis after everything they've been through, The sea represented that freedom. By this moment, the distance between him, Armin, and Mikasa is already insurmountable. Eren is being consumed by disillusionment and disenchantment. Beyond the sea, freedom is not waiting for him, but more death, more suffering. In that basement, Eren didn't find hope. He found a loop of pain and suffering that is making him lose his hope in the world. If we kill all the enemies beyond the sea, we will finally be free, says Eren, a desperate question before a world in flames that threatens to destroy them. And from this point on, I won't analyze his fall in such a linear or chronological manner, but I'll focus on the key moments and the reasons behind everything that's going to happen, using moments from the series. We must understand that from the moment Eren unlocks those memories, those visions will constantly assault him, showing him the horrible future he's going to create. Something that, over time, he will progressively understand he cannot change. This is extremely important because as he tries things to prevent that future from materializing, everything he does is leading him to it. The moment he completely loses hope is when they're in Marley for those peace talks, and the Marleyans continue wanting to finish them off, still calling them demons. At that point, Eren finally surrenders completely to his destiny. The paradox of the Attack Titan is that it robs you of your freedom, showing you memories from the future and chains you to actions from which you cannot escape. Seeing how these actions inevitably unfold drains and robs the hope from an Eren who can only resign himself and admit that he is a slave to his own destiny. But beyond the determinism of this unalterable predestination, there is also Eren himself. What happens to Eren in the sea of memories and visions is that he loses his mind. He loses himself. Let's start from the basis that Eren is not a saint. The hate he feels inside and his desire to confront his enemies at all costs are real, because of everything he's lived through, always to save his friends. But to what extent was he a monster? Eren knows that his enemies are not demons. He has spent time with Falco. He has loved Reiner, Bertolt, or Annie, and he knows there is humanity among his enemies. He shows this in the scene where he breaks down before this child who has no guilt. The child represents the innocence of the world, the good, the future, and the opportunity for a better future. But still, he cannot stop what's happening. He is able to recognize the tragedy he is about to commit, and this haunts him, but he is still forced to continue. That determination that made him never stop when he thought he was saving humanity is now slowly driving it toward the most horrible and painful end. And in this context, he clings to the only good thing he sees in this ending. His friends can survive, his home, Paradis, can survive, and in the end, for him, that was humanity. For a long time, the only way he could justify the damage he is about to cause is by thinking that all that pain will be worth it to save at least his world and part of the world beyond. An extremely high price to pay for something he desired when he was a child. It's almost like a curse. You wanted to save humanity behind the walls. You wanted to free the world from the Titans. You wanted freedom and peace for your friends. Don't worry, you will achieve it. But like a cruel joke of fate, along the way, you will lose your humanity, your freedom, and you will become a monster. I have no doubt that during this process, Eren will have moments of all kinds. Sometimes he will convince himself that he is doing the right thing, focusing on the little good that happens amidst all the bad. But in many other moments, he will see himself as a monster, overwhelmed and struggling to move forward because, after all, destiny will always lead him where he needs to be, like a piece on a chessboard and no longer as a player who makes the decisions. And things keep happening just as he saw them. Willie Tybur says the words that Eren knew he would say, wanting to turn the world against the demons of Paradis. He speaks of how the Eldians of that island are the external enemy against which the world must unite, always as an excuse to obtain resources beyond the island, because this work constantly highlights human greed and the thirst for power. And it's then that Eren's response is to pay Marley back with the same coin, making the wheel of hatred turn one more time, affecting a new generation and passing down the same hatred that Eren felt when he was a child. This is represented by the character of Gabi. Sometimes I feel that Eren is waiting to see if Tybur says what he knows he's going to say, almost hoping that he doesn't, so he doesn't act, so he doesn't commit the massacre. But as I said, things keep happening as he saw them. On the other hand, the seed of hatred, fueled by the fear of parity, germinates in that land with the YEAGERists and the radicalization and militarization of their population prepare, rightly so, for the retaliation the world had planned for them. From their point of view, a point of view without empathy regarding the outside world, it can be understood that the rumbling is seen as salvation. Notice that they only know that world. What happens outside the walls is something foreign to everything they've ever known. And suddenly, the world this excerpt touches on EREN's internal conflict, the concept of fate, and his struggle with the consequences of his actions, as well as the complexity of his relationships with his friends and enemies. The idea of predestination and the inevitability of certain events play a crucial role in shaping his decisions, and the story explores how his quest for freedom and peace leads him to make difficult and often tragic choices. This segment delves into EREN's internal turmoil, his motivations, and the tragic consequences of his actions. Here's a breakdown of the key points in the narrative. EREN, feeling cornered and desperate, is caught in a deadly struggle with the world. His desire to protect his home, Parity Island, leads him to make increasingly radical choices. The idea of survival becomes central, and his choice is between fighting against the outside world or facing annihilation. EREN, just moments away from death due to Gabi's shot, manages to connect with the power of the founding Titan, accessing a place referred to as the coordinate or crossroads linked to the power of the founding Titan. This pivotal moment comes with the revelation of the past, specifically how King Fritz created the pact to renounce war, preventing anyone who inherited the founding Titan from activating the rumbling. However, EREN is different. Unlike those with royal blood, EREN can access this power and thus break the chains that bound humanity. He reaches the spirit of Ymir, the progenitor of all Titans, who has lived a tragic and eternal existence, shackled by her emotional dependency on the man who mistreated her. EREN's arrival is marked by a twisted form of empathy, in which he convinces Ymir that she deserves freedom and autonomy. Although EREN has harbored such ideals since childhood, there is an element of manipulation here, and he influences Ymir to set his plan into motion. The rumbling, the end of the world. The rumbling begins, leading to the destruction of 80% of the world's population. EREN, who once fought for the freedom of his friends and his people, is now fully transformed into the monster he envisioned in his visions, an individual whose actions are driven by a twisted sense of freedom. The cost of his ideal is the eradication of all that was good in the world. The symbolism of the flowers, representing goodness amidst evil, fades as EREN's actions burn them away, crushing everything beneath the weight of the colossal titans. The ultimate tragedy is that EREN has not only destroyed the world outside Parity, but has also destroyed himself in the process. His influence extends so far as to alter his past. He manipulates events to make sure that his younger self experiences the pain and hatred necessary to propel him down this destructive path. He is both the cause and effect of his fate, a victim of the time loop that he cannot escape. In the end, his friends, the ones who still care about him, must end the cycle of violence. The mission is to convince humanity that peace is worth the fight, something EREN has now lost all hope in. He knows what he's done and feels immense guilt. He admits to Armin that he feels like a fool, acknowledging that he lost his way, his hope, and was blinded by his hatred and the traumatic memories of the future. He was so consumed by anger and despair that he couldn't stop himself, and the freedom he sought now lies in a world filled with death, blood, and destruction. But Armin, understanding the complexity of EREN's path and the burden his friend carried, shows him compassion in their final moment together. This section of the narrative highlights EREN's tragic arc, his internal conflict, and the heavy consequences of his choices. He wanted to save his friends and bring freedom to his people, but in doing so, he ultimately sacrificed everything, including his humanity, leading to a tragic end. His friends, particularly Armin, who understands his pain, are left to carry the weight of the final resolution, navigating the remnants of his vision and striving for a better future. Together, that's why he offers to make him feel good and share his burden, to rescue his humanity from the hell that EREN has also lived. A small relief before an inevitable death for someone who has no forgiveness. A pure moment with his friend within the storm that EREN has had to live through. And then there's Mikasa. EREN doesn't want to let go of her. Doesn't want to stop putting the scarf on her, just as he said in the past. All the harsh words he had directed at her were part of his plan, part of getting what he wanted to achieve. And just as things were meant to happen, he still loves her and wants to live with her. But Mikasa must renounce him and seal the destiny that Ymir couldn't. For Mikasa, it's very hard because she wants to believe that the good still resides in Eren's heart. And she's not wrong, but his actions, as I said, are unforgivable. Before that final tragic kiss, we see a shared vision of the two of them. What the future could have been if they had led normal lives, if war and death hadn't reached them, and if their lives hadn't been conditioned from the start. An illusion of what never happened. A tragic love story that couldn't be because the world is full of cruelty and pain, and that marks our lives. Eren achieves lasting peace through his friends, keeps Paradis safe, and creates a world that will enjoy peace for centuries and centuries. It will break again later, yes, and the cycle will possibly restart, but it will remain a gift for humanity, though one with a very high human cost and a cost for Eren because he has been forced to renounce his own life. Mikasa and his friends will never forget the person that Eren was, beyond the fate he had to live. Eren is partially to blame for everything that happened, for blinding himself, for being led by hatred in many instances, for resigning and even stopping fighting. But he was also someone subjected to an unparalleled torment. It's a complex but incomprehensible feeling. Eren is both victim and executioner. He is destruction and purification. He is war and peace. He is slavery and freedom. This complexity makes him one of the most interesting characters I have ever seen. A difficult character to analyze, almost an exercise by the author Isayama to show us the complexity of the world and its ongoing conflicts. Even while these are recited, Eren fulfills his destiny and is buried in the place where, as a child, he dreamed of a freedom that never existed, or at least would never exist for him. And this is where his story ends. The life of the hero who dreamed of freedom and ended up stealing it from millions of people. The contradiction made into a character. The hero condemned to hell. And this is the end of the Eren Yeager video. One of the most complex and difficult characters to analyze who has passed through my channel, because he has a lot of contradictions, because it is difficult to understand his true motivations, as they are very conditioned by everything he has seen and everything he still has to live. And at the same time, it's exactly for that reason that he is such an interesting character to analyze, and someone worth delving into. As I mentioned, if you want more analyses of these kinds of characters from Shingeki no Kyojin, like Reiner, I have to admit that I'm quite eager to do it. Leave a like to support the video here in Manga and Comics Chronicles. Share it a lot with your family, because your grandmother surely has also watched Shingeki no Kyojin. It has been a pleasure, as I said, to make such an extensive and complex analysis. I've put blood, sweat, and tears into it, so I really hope you enjoyed it. That's enough for me, and we'll see each other soon on the channel. Until soon.